So, Pisces, your August 2025 forecast begins with Venus, the planet of love and affection, having moved into a most beautiful part of your chart, the fifth house. And just to tease, by the 12th of the month, Venus is going to connect with your traditional ruler Jupiter in a potentially hugely lovely and lucky way. These are the two planets of fortune in traditional astrology, but the fifth house that they occupy can be about speculation, but it also can be about neat romance and sociability. But you know, although Venus moved into that area late last month, I don't feel that you will be focusing on playfulness and sociability right at the start of the month. Instead of which, I think you may be focusing on some practical details, because that's where the Sun is, house 6, along with the sign of precision, Mercury. But Mercury is in retrograde through to the 11th. And one of the things that I feel really defines you as a sign, as a collective, is that Pisces people will give a lot if you're at least respected. If you're respected but also appreciated, you can give everything of yourself. But if you feel that you're giving a lot and not really feeling heard, seen, recognized, that's something that can cause some issues. And that can see you go the opposite way and feel much more cautious about giving to situations. And that could be the dimension that you find yourself at the start of this month. So for example, if you work for someone, yes, you may get the pay, but usually for most people, we want more than that. We want to work with people where it's convivial. We want to feel there's a good atmosphere. We want to feel that the work we do is appreciated. It's not that you necessarily want to be knighted for services to industry, but just really respected. And if there is a shortfall at the start of this month, it's something that could be engaging you in quite a big way. Now, people can see you as someone who's not so focused on the practical side of things. They see you sometimes as being a bit dreamy, but you can cut through, and you may find yourself with Mercury retrograde getting onto an issue that you're not particularly satisfied with. For example, it may be that a colleague does a lot less than you and seems to be a lot more acknowledged or popular. That type of thing could really rankle. And if also you're not being rewarded as much as someone else, and you know it, that also could be something that starts to burn away, particularly as Mars steps forwards from the part of your chart where he's been encouraging you to set your boundaries over the previous 5 weeks of August, and by the 6th moves into your 8th house. This is where for the next 6 weeks you're going to take your financial future very seriously indeed. But he goes into an exact opposition with Saturn and Neptune, who are in your second house of your solar chart for the whole of this month, very closely together. Neptune, your modern ruler, of course, highly sensitive, very impressionable, can be a mystical influence, but Saturn in the second house is making you much more aware of the cost of living, but also the cost of giving. And because Neptune and Saturn square off with Venus at the start of the month, that generosity of spirit you often show may be something you're going to be less inclined to give. But also, once the opposition between Mars and Saturn and Neptune occurs, if it is very clear to you that someone's withholding what is fair in terms of your sacrifice, your industry, your thoughtfulness, your conscientiousness, it really could burn in you. And there may be a major between the 5th, 6th and 7th discussion which could get quite tense. It depends on your unique situation, but also the 9th sees the full moon, but it's in the most psychological part of your chart. If you also feel that there's an environment where things aren't truly honest, people hold things back, there's criticisms, but it's done in a sly way. That kind of office backstabbing may be something that you really could feel very undermined by from the 9th. But on the 11th, Mercury does go direct. That's going to help. If there have been some misunderstandings over small details, they can start to be evened out. But it's also true that from the 8th through to the 10th, that newly arrived Mars in your 8th house, very passionate, very scorpionic, forges an amazing link with the other ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, in the 12th house, of deep, profound experiences that you've had over many years, but then linking to Uranus, the planet of change, in your 4th house of home and emotion. Is there something that does need to shift that won't necessarily be easy? That's the big question, the existential question for you. But then on the 12th, or really from the 9th to the 15th, things soften. Venus and Jupiter can see a discussion, maybe following on from the very tense full moon and that opposition between Mars, Saturn particularly, and there may be a chance to get things onto a much better footing. There may be a new agreement that's forged. It might even be in a personal situation that you're just getting a partner to be much more conscious of what you have to offer, what your value is. But the 5th house can also be profoundly playful, quite flirty. If you are going out and about and you're socializing, even though at this time in the month the sun is essentially quite practical, if you do, you could have a lovely, lovely connection, a beautiful evening, some great conversations. But then on the 22nd, the sun moves to replace Mars in your sector of relating. The new moon on the 23rd. Set those intentions you can, but it is about perhaps using the energy of Mars through to the 6th and the previous 6 weeks of being clearer about what you will or will not do. But if you're not happy in a professional situation, because Uranus is now in a part of your chart that can affect your emotions a lot more in a very vivid way, you could make some quick decisions over the following month around all sorts of connections. Maybe it won't be to do with your work, maybe it will be to do with a friendship. You need to feel recognised and respected. You're not, as I mentioned, looking for people to give you an added level of praise. It's just, if that is there, you're all in. If it's not, you could really feel very, very unsure about what to do. And then, as the month draws to a close, there could be a new contact you make, a new connection, which is really exciting. Also, Venus moves into your sector of work and obligations on the 25th, and that also can see you change a little bit in your relationship to some of the more challenging energies of this month. But as the month draws to a close, I think relationships is the big part of the story. But Uranus is asking those relationships to be very authentic from an emotional viewpoint. And yes, again, the sun and the new moon can see you quite happy to give, but there has to be a fair get. So I feel the exchange of energy, effort, respect is really at the core of what this month is about for you. Now, money could be in the mix, but I don't think it's the essential issue. I think it's more to do with the emotional dimension of how it's all discussed, or how you feel recognised, whether you feel people really see just how conscientious and virtuous you can truly be. With year 2025 absolutely racing by, you can order your year 2026 natal forecast now, and I'll give you the rest of this year free, but also 30% off and your life roadmap report, the most important document any of us can ever read, helping to give us searing insights into the life patterns that have played out so far, but a much more intimate understanding of how to work with those energies future forwards. Please see the link below for more.